guys, it's John here, and welcome back inside the Super Awesome Geek Show's YouTube channel, home of homes, toy room, toy condo. This is the place to be to talk toys. And today we're going to be talking stands. Well, yeah, let's talk stands, because we got a variety of different stands that have come through for us to check out. Some of them are pretty specific, where they might just fit Gundam and maybe not too many others. And some of them are more versatile, where they've got these multi-clips and various things that can, attachments and things. So, you know, you might be able to fit it with different kinds of action figures. And others have these claw type things that might only be for, you know, action figures and not Gundam. You know, so we've got a variety of stands to look at and a variety of purposes and uses for these. So I'm going to check out each one. We've got expensive stands going all the way down to super, super inexpensive. I mean, like, some of these are bordering on $1 per stand. So I think it was these actually that were bordering on $1 per stand. So you can go from the super inexpensive to there are some stands that I don't have an example of, but like the actual stand that the company the Bandai group recommend for Gundam, if you buy that stand, it costs $35 per stand each, $35 each. And then I've got something here, I've got two alternatives for Gundam that drastically reduce that price. You can get two of these black stands for $13, and they are incredible. Wait till you see those. Or you could get, like, I think I got like 5 of these for $10. So there's cheaper ones as well. So yeah, and then we've got Hasbro's stand, which you can get, is it 3 for $15, I think? I've got this generic stand with elbow joints and a claw feature, which are 8, I think it was 8 stands for $10. So they're just around $1 a stand. The DC stands that come with, we're going to compare them to the ones that come with McFarlane toys. And then we also have a generic doll stand that I think I got 10 or so of these for around $10. These were right around $1 a stand. I'll put a link to all this stuff. There are a lot of these that you can buy on Amazon and various places. I'll put links in the description of this video so you can easily find if there's a particular stand here that you like or you want to use, something that is good cost to function, you know, has a good cost to function ratio. And then I'm going to tell you my opinion on each one of these. We're going to go through each stand, and I'll give you my opinion on each stand and let you know what I think about them. All right, let's dive right in and get into these stands in detail. So maybe let's start by checking out, adjust the light here. We'll check out DC's stand, since that's one that comes right from a manufacturer. It comes from Todd McFarlane, McFarlane Toys. Now these DC stands, I wonder if I can get it apart now that I've put it together, right? Yeah. Okay, so they come flat like this with a peg for the character to stand on. So if you just want to use the silver disc to stand on, you can. And then they have this arm that has a bendable clip, and it's a claw like clip thing. And there are, you can see little hash marks in there, so they kind of, there's a almost like a resistance band in there. You can hear it click around even, so that it will hold in that location pretty well. And these just slide together. The construction is very simple, and there's a satisfying snap to hold it together. So this can go, it has some range of movement up like that, and it can go all the way down to holding a character flying straight out. And I've got a couple examples here, like you got him flying up with his fire blast coming out, and then you can have a Superman, you know, and you can kind of angle him so he could really fly, you know, you can get a good angle on there. The capes do go over the stand pretty well. That's one thing you got to look at in stands, is that if you've got a character with a cape or wings like this one does, sometimes you got to make sure it clears. And this putting this angle in and tapering it down here was a good choice for this stand, because it allows that cape to sort of flow over it, as you can see here, and it doesn't get in the way when he's standing up. We're going to try some other characters on this thing. We'll do like hello, I am Gorn, your news anchor for the Gorn Radio Network. We'll see how a, so it's a bit tall. Oh my gosh, my Gorn's arm is falling off. What's crazy going on here? There we go. Pop that bad boy back in. So for a Amigo character, it's a little tall, so this stand might not work for Migo. You'd have to have him in the air if you're gonna be, you know, if you want to just use it as a stand. This is one that seems designed for having 6-inch figures in the air, lofted off the ground. We can do like let's do a Spider-Man here. We could do a Spider-Man in his kind of you could do a Spider-Man in sort of a wall crawler type pose. He could be stuck on the wall or hanging down, coming down from something. Let's see, we got to do it this way, right? This is how we're going to do it. We're going to put these together. Hold on. Spider-Man, radioactive Spider-Man. He does kind of lean in. Give him his pizza here. He does kind of lean towards the back a little bit this way, but oops, I knocked his pizza out again. Pizza. It's not bad. I mean, that works, right? So you could kind of hang your Spider-Man. So it works for Marvel, for DC. Works pretty good for a variety of different things here. I've lost the pizza. And yeah, we could get a Mandalorian flying on here, so it could work for, you can make it work for your Mandalorians too. So there's a lot that you can do with this DC stand. It'll work pretty good for a lot of different things like that, yeah. So not a bad stand at all. The DC stand is pretty good. Comes with McFarlane's toys, so, and I do believe now you can order those, the stands by themselves. I'll try to find a link to that and put it in the description. I'll try to find links to all these stands and put them in the descriptions and places of where you can order them. And there's also I think NECA does 2 stands for $15 or $20. I'll have to look that one up too. I don't right now have a NECA stand to compare them with, but I could still put that link in the description and show you the NECA stands. At least you could go look them up yourself. Yeah, all right, let's move on to the next one. I think this is a pretty good look at this stand. Oh yeah, we also have to check out 12-inch figures. So I have this awesome Count Dooku with, he's got bendable fingers. Even his trigger finger here moves separate from the other fingers. And super highly posable, great cloth detailing and everything in this figure. But you don't want them falling over, so you've got to get a stand for them. So let's check this stand out. Is it going to open wide enough to be usable for this kind of a figure? We can put his cape over it. And probably not. I mean, this looks like it's not quite going to make it around. It might make it around one leg, but that's about it. So it's not really going to work for these kind of larger figures. So it's not going to work for 12-inch Star Wars or like Hasbro. Those are the Hasbro ones from the 90s. And it's not, so it, of course, will probably not work for a Hot Toy or something like that, those 12-inch Hot Toys. So this stand is definitely a 6 to 8-inch action figure. Nothing smaller, nothing larger. And more so for someone who wants to use a character flying through the air. This is mostly like a flight stand, I would say, in my opinion. The next stand I want to look at is what I would say is like a doll stand. It holds your Mego really nice. Mego characters, this is the stand for you, I think. This is a perfect stand for Mego. Like I could put the Gorn right here, and heck, you could, oh crap. You could put it around his neck or around his waist, wherever you want. It works best around their waist, though. Come on, Gorny. And then you... Yeah, so he's going to stand up great with that stand. And what's pretty neat about this stand is the... well, I'll build one for you. So... You get them, they're a... already better 12-piece doll stands for figures and dolls and accessories. So you actually get 12 stands for the... They were right around $10 or $12 for 12 stands. Supvox. So you got to take out a base. You just get them in a bag like this. And there's a stick. And then there's the claw part. It's just 3 pieces. And... the stick goes in the base like this. Snaps in pretty good. It's not going to come apart super easy. You know, it'll stay in there for some tugging. Give it a good tug and it'll pop out. And then you've got this claw part that just slides right on the top here. It is sort of like a you know, T-shaped thing, and it slides on. But what that allows you to do is you can go all the way down to really low, or you can slide up to the very top and get various height of your characters. And since it's not super tall, I mean, it only comes up to the head of your Mego figures, it's a great stand for Mego. It's my #1 pick for Mego, unless you want to have them flying through the air. Then you're going to use something like the DC stand. But if you just want to put them standing up on your shelf, it's super inexpensive to get a ton of these stands. Clip your Mego around the waist. You barely notice the stand is even there, and he can hang on and stand with all of his accessories and never fall over. I mean, it's not going to fall over. It's so perfect, you know, and looks great for your Mego figures. It also works well for some Masters of the Universe. Let me see. I got my trap jaw here. Now you got to put it all the way really low, but as you can see, it clips right around trap jaw, and I mean, it'll work perfect for having him stand up, and he's not going to fall over or go anywhere. Now the only problem is you've got this giant post because it's designed for a taller figure, but it does work well nonetheless. I mean, and all of his accessories can still be held on there. So it works for vintage He-Man figures as well. If you're sure that you're only going to use the stand, and I mean, and since these only cost you about $1 each, you can just cut that off with some snippers. You know, you could trim this with just some pinchers, some cutters, scissors will probably work. This is not sturdy. It's super thin plastic. It's not gonna destroy anything by cutting that off. So you could trim these if you really wanted to, and you knew that you were only going to use this for Masters of the Universe, because it will work. And then, I mean, of course, they work for Black Series. If you're just having them stand around, she clips in pretty good. Again, though, you got to watch if they have a big backpack like she does. It's hitting the pole. So, you know, if stuff's in the way, it's not really going to work for that character. But you could, like, if she's just taken off, you could put her way up at the top. Look at that. She's flying away. But it's probably not ideal for someone who's got a big backpack like she does, or other characters who have things like that. Of course, if they've got a cape, like, say that... like that. Oh, come on. Where did I just put him? Oh, here he is. So like the Superman, I mean, you can't have him standing up if he's got his cape on, because this would be in the way. You know, that's another factor you got to look at with these kind of stands, where you'd have to put it way up near the top to use this stand on a flying guy, because you want to make sure the cape can go over the part. So you'd have to do something like that, you know. So yeah, you'd have to be something like that up in the air. So if you really wanted some height, you could use a stand like this and get them way up there, which would be taller than a lot taller than a DC stand. You see, the DC stand only has that limited height, where this can get really tall. So if you want to get really high up with some of your figures, this might work. But anything lower than that, you definitely want to go to use one of these type of DC stands, or some of the other stands that I have coming up. Like, say, this one. We'll do this one next. But first, really, I think everyone's wondering if this doll stand works for your 12-inch figures. And it kind of does. It works better than the previous stand we looked at. It totally goes behind the cape here, so his cloth can go right over it smoothly and perfectly without you even noticing that it's there. But what you do have to do is clip it to his leg, because the clip is so small that it will not go around the waist. So you've got to clip it to a leg, which doesn't look bad. You know what I mean? He stands well. He's not going to fall over. He can go where you need to put him, like on a top shelf or in a display case or something, and he's not going to fall over. So it does work in that instance for this kind of character, and it's not obtrusive. It doesn't get in the way. He looks pretty good with it. You can kind of pose him and, you know, get him in there. Not bad at all. So this stand will work for 12-inch Star Wars from the 90s, Hasbro, and it will, I imagine, will also work for your Hot Toys and things like that if you want to just grab it around the leg, and they're just standing up. And you've got enough cloth goods and other things in there to sort of hide the stand behind the figure and stuff. I think this would work pretty good. And it's cheap. I mean, they worked out to what? Just like $1 or so. So not bad at all. It's a versatile stand that I think you'll get a lot of use out of for a really inexpensive price. The next stand I have to look at is really, really inexpensive, really cheap. It's got a very chintzy base. This base is super thin plastic, and it almost feels like it can warp a little bit in the heat. You do have some options with this stand. You can put the arm in 3 different holes. So you've got this spot to put the arm with a short front, or you can do this spot and have a longer front to give it more, you know, so it won't tilt, it won't fall over. Like if you've got a big figure here, this could do that and fall, where this won't fall forward as much, you know. One interesting thing about these stands is they do have multiple joints. So there's a joint down here at the bottom. They have a joint here, and they have a joint at the claw part. So you can go like all kinds of different spots. And the claw doesn't really have much, it's just friction. There's no clicks, there's no tightening parts, it's just friction holding it where it is. So you could easily push on the figure and push this open. It is, these stands are, they were roughly $1 something a stand, and they are quite literally as cheap as they sound. But already with me having opened a couple of these stands, I've got a number of extra pieces that go along with this. So you can go almost as tall as you want to go with these. I mean, it's very versatile to get yourself way up there. I mean, you could just keep going and going and going and get as tall as you want. And with this thing opening so wide, you could almost use this as sort of a, well, hold on, we almost need one of these small ones on here first, and then put this elbow part on. You know, and have it just something to lean against. It could almost be something that you're just leaning against, you know, and because it can open really wide. So there is a flaw with these though that I have noticed, and that is just that when you are trying to hang something from the sky, which we'll do here, let's see, like let's put that Superman on here. All right, so we're gonna put his cape back, close this jaw around him. You see already? He's so heavy that he's pulling the stand apart. So you can't have figures that are really heavy with this kind of stand once you go above 2 joints. If you've got just the one set of joints and you put them on there, it's not so bad. You know, he will stay suspended, but he's barely off the ground. I mean, he's barely off the ground. So, and look, he's still collapsed. So it's not the most ideal stand for a DC figure because they're quite heavy. But let's try like a Black Series figure. See, a Black Series figure, she's off the ground. She's not that bad. And we'll put her on the taller one here. Let's see. Causing chaos. All right, let's try this again here. So even she's a little bit problematic with this stand. So as cheap as these stands are, once you start getting to the double, like to 2 joints, you're going to start running into some problems. And that could be why this stand is so inexpensive. You know, it's a cheap stand and it's cheaply made, and it's not going to work for all kinds of, it'll work for some circumstances, but maybe not all circumstances, you know. I think if we switch to where we just have the one, we got a better chance of, you know, so it could work for standing up Black Series that are otherwise going to fall over, you know, because now she's not going to go anywhere. So you could use this stand for just standing your guys up and holding them in place rather than something with a peg in it, you know. And again, it's not that expensive. It comes to about the right height to hold her in the waist. And these stands run you just around $1 or so each once you buy the pack. And they come like this. You've got a giant pack of them, and they'll have screws in there. There's like a sprue that has all the parts on it, and then the stand piece. And you just cut them apart at the sprues and screw them together. And like I said, I think I got 8 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I got 7, 8. I got 8 of them for right around $10 or $12, I think it was. So and I'll put the link in. It was off Amazon. Came from a Chinese company though, but they got here pretty quick. They were within a week, and so they'll work for this kind of application. But having them in flight, a character that's pretty heavy, might not work so well. You're gonna have to use something else when it comes to them being in flight. But not too bad for the price for using them for just holding onto your figures and standing them up. Let's check a look here. Will it work for Masters of the Universe? So Masters has to be really, really low. Let's get the shorter piece. There was a shorter piece that we could use for these. Or is that... I'm not mixing up... No, that's all you get. You get 2 long pieces and then the claw part. So you don't really have a shorter piece here to use for that. So yeah, they're kind of too tall for Masters of the Universe. Unless you put it around his head, but then you've got to angle him. So now it's not really going to be that good for Masters. It's good for Marvel and Black Series, I would say. Marvel 6-inch and Black Series. Our Spider-Man, let's see, does he hang? Our Spider-Man hangs okay upside down like that, you know? It could work for Spidey. So, you know, certain characters that don't weigh a lot, this is going to work. But other DC, the DC Masterverse guys that really weigh a lot, your Gundams, they're gonna make it fall down because there's not enough friction in this joint to hold it up, you know? Unfortunately. But I'll still get a use out of these. I'm not knocking them too bad. For $1 or whatever, they're not bad. Alright, let's move on to sticking with this kind of action figure stand. We'll move on to Hasbro. Now, Hasbro is by far the best quality that I own. And it'll work for crazy amounts of applications here. Get you a little bit better here. Now, Hasbro, it comes with a base. Let me see if I can get this off here. So Hasbro will come with a base like this, and there's 9 holes in it. And it's a really thick and sturdy base. It comes with an arm that, you know, once you clip these parts on, it has little grooves in it so that you can go up and down and it will hold in that spot. Like it'll lock into position pretty much and hold there. So you can extend all the way up or go all the way down. And then it has an armature which can be moved pretty much all the way around. And a clip, the claw part can be twisted to any direction. And these are on a spring-loaded system here, so they definitely grip whatever you want it to grip. And will go in any space that you want it to go into to hold these things up. So not bad at all. Very versatile. And probably the highest quality stand for these type of action figures that you can get. Now, the problem with the cape, though, is the cape is in the way. That's one thing that I don't know what to do with this in this situation. If the character has a cape, I don't see how you're going to hang on to it. It's just totally in the way. I mean, I really don't. I don't know how you're going to get this on there. It's unfortunate, but that's how it is. Let's see here. We're going to try. I'm going to try to just get rid of this arm and put this on this way and see what happens here. Let's see. So I guess we could do it that way. Get rid of the arm. Let's put the cape over the thing and open this up. So it is possible to make it work. By taking off the arm part and clipping the claw right to the stand. But it's still creating a big gap between the figure and the way the cape is bent out that might not be desirable for everyone. And he's kind of limited in the amount that he can fly forward. He can only really fly up. I can't lean him forward on this one like I could with the DC ones. So there's some minor limitations there with that stand. But as far as working for for the Spider-Man, I mean, it works great. You can do all kinds of things with this one for the Spider-Man. It'll work for our Mandalorians flying out of here. But one thing you start getting into is how big is too big for your stands, you know? Like, that's an awful lot of stand to have in the way compared to some of the other stands that we've taken a look at, you know, like the DC one or even the cheap plastic one, you know? So yeah, it's kind of... You got a consideration to take into account here. You got a stand that's this good, but at the same time, there's a lot of stand there, you know. So, yeah, something to consider. But one thing I have seen people do is I've seen people take these stands and they so we could pop this off, pop it on the end. So you have her hanging outside of the cabinet, and then what you do is you put another character, you stand somebody else on the stand here to counterbalance it. And then you can have her flying outside of your cabinet or off your shelf, and the guy on the shelf counterbalancing it. You know, and there's pegs, like the DC stands, there are pegs on these Hasbro stands for your characters to stand on. So they work with Marvel Legends and DC. Let's see, Marvel Legends fit, Black Series fit on the peg, and let's try this Marvel Legends Spider-Man on the peg and see what happens. Yeah, and he fits on the peg. So they'll fit the pegs will fit your characters pretty good. Not bad. Now, the next thing we want to look at is how do these stands work for things like your Gundam and everything. And there are a couple stands that are built specifically for a Gundam, but I also want to show the clawed ones and give you an idea of how these will work for Gundam as well. So, Gundam usually come with, when you get a Gundam, they'll come with a thing that clips into a stand. I think they call it an was it an A5 or T5 stand or something like that? And if you go on their website and try to buy one, it'll cost you $35 for the stand. But they have this neat little clip that hooks into your Gundams. Or, for larger Gundam, you'll have a clip that looks something like this to clip onto your larger Gundam. And the stand that they recommend will clip right into these holders that come with your Gundam. And it can make them so they fly. My Gundam's falling apart on me. So it'll make it so they can fly up in the air. Come on. I'll have to get him back together. And now the ones with the clips do work. They will go around, you know, with a claw part like this. They will go around the Gundam's waist. So you could have it like you would do a Black Series or a Marvel Legends or anything else, and clip it around there and forget about the connecting mechanism that comes with Gundam. And this particular stand, again, the cheap stand with one arm and the claw unit will work for the Gundam if you just want to have him standing up and you just don't want him to fall over off of your shelf. So this will work, and it'll probably work with Transformers and other things like that too. So this cheap stand will work in a lot of different instances for just making sure your character doesn't fall off the shelf. And things like Gundam and Transformers are bulky enough to where the foot placement takes up the amount of space that this stand would take up. So you're not sacrificing space on your shelf by having a stand. You know, it'll work out pretty cool. But if you want the guy flying, you really can't use this stand again, because once you get him 2 levels high, it's going to fall over again, just like we saw with the DC characters, because they're so heavy. And the same thing goes, like this stand will work if you take the claw off and just use the peg that it comes with. But let's say you want it to be like twice as tall so it'll fly, right? Because the peg just happens to be the right size to fit in the A5 snugly, but it does work. But, I mean, he's already just going to fall over. That joint just doesn't hold enough to keep it up in the air. So we've got to find a different solution for that. But the claw part can work just to hold him up if you want to stand him up and not have him fall over. So let's keep with the claws for just a minute here, and we'll try the DC stand on this guy. Now the DC stand has a very wide claw. It's very open, very big, so it doesn't really grip well for this particular kind of Gundam. But he can be suspended off the air using it. You've just got to clip it in the right spot, or maybe clip a leg. Maybe you'll choose to do that and clip a leg. At least he's flying. The DC stand's not going to fall over, and it'll work in that instance. But in my opinion, if you're going to clip the leg like that, you might as well use a stand that's built for a Gundam and not use a C-clamp kind of stand. Let's try the Hasbro one because the claws are a little bit thinner. There goes that shield again. But with the Gundam's backpack, I can't get around the waist because of all this. So all this stuff is in the way to really get a good grip using the Hasbro one. So I would fear he's going to slip and fall off. So I might not choose to use that stand. Again, I can clip him around the leg. It's going to hold because of the springs. But if you're going to do that, I think there's other stands that would fit the bill and make it better for you. Let's check out the doll stand. The doll stand does clip around him pretty good. He's up in the air. I can raise him pretty high. The doll stand actually isn't that bad. For the money, this doll stand is becoming pretty versatile. You know, that's not bad at all, really. One of the cheapest ones is becoming the most versatile. But then we've got now this was specifically made for a Gundam, and it's got the Gundam peg right there to go into that slot. It's got a V-shaped legs, only one position for where you put the stand, and they are these kind of stands, model effect stands. HG1 144th SD BBQ whatever, WS08 whatever that means. But they're pretty much designed. You can get them in multiple different colors. I just chose a clear stand because I wanted to get it clear, and they're very simple to put together. I got, let's see, 5 stands for roughly $10. I think it was $10 for 5 stands. I'll double check again. Like I said, I'll put a link in the description. I'm trying to be very economical with my stands here. I'm trying to get the best value for your buck. The Hasbro ones by far have the best quality, but as we've seen, there are some usage issues depending on what you want to use it for. You know, not saying they aren't good to have. It's just that it's not going to be as versatile as some of these other ones are proving to be. So yeah, you got to break these pieces apart off their pegs. You know, they come on a sprue, and then the arm gets connected here. Like, let's see, like so. There's a peg hole and a armature that these go together, and they're not really going together. Come on, go together. Wow, do they have to go? Well, they can't go that way. This is the only way it can go. Why am I having a hard time? All right, hold on. All right, there we go. I don't know why, but I just had to snap it together outside of the thing. But once it's snapped together, there's no movement here. It's very rigid. And then you stick this to the stand. And like I said, they're very, very rigid. There's no movement here. It's not going anywhere once it's put together. But my only problem is it can't get any higher than this. I mean, it fits your Gundam perfectly, but he's only going to be hovering like a few centimeters off the ground. So, in my opinion, it's kind of like, what's the point? You know, I mean, yeah, you could kind of have him, you know, so he doesn't have to have his feet touching the ground. There could be some uses for this then. I mean, I could see you doing this and putting the wings up, you know. You know, so your legs are out and he's coming out, you know. You know, so I could see some usage for this, but primarily he's not going to get high up in the air, you know, and make any of those cool dynamic poses and stuff. So it's useful, but not 100% here, you know. So we've already ruled out these. Let's put them away for Gundam. Let's check out the doll stand for Gundam. Again, real quick here, because I want to see how this looks. So the doll stand's going to have an issue with this guy because he's got the backpack here. it's not really allowing me to clip this on. So yeah, so we can't use that for him. And then the last one is going to be this cool black stand over here. Now, this again was more, I think the black stand is more in line with cost on the Hasbro stands. This one is going to, you get 2 of these stands for $13.99, I think it was. So yeah, that's a little bit more on the expensive side. It's probably up there with NECA and Hasbro as far as cost of stand. And they come again in bags here. So model action base VT111 MGRGHG, and I mean, they have a Gundam right on the freaking bag. So this is also one that you have to put together. You've got a very big base that comes with this. A bunch of screws to put them together with. A couple of arms, and the arms have these jagged like ridges in them because they have stabilizers. And then there's a sprue with all the parts that you've got to clip out of here and put together. And you get a lot of extra pieces with this one, which is really cool. And I'll show you these extra pieces right here. So you can pretty much do whatever you want with this one. What's really nice is this arm has this bridge piece in it. So this piece comes out and you've got to clip it into one of these these sockets here, and then clip it in the other one, and it gives you that strength so it can't fold up on itself, so it will hold heavy things in the air. So it doesn't have that problem that we saw when you were holding them with some of those other ones that have multiple joints. It'll really hold them up in the air. And then the other cool thing is it has a connector end for this size Gundam to go in their butts, like that little butt connector that we saw. And it also has an arm to hold it out, so away from the stand, you know, it'll actually go out away from the stand. And we have multiple elbow joint ones, other connectors, to give it even more versatility. So there's extra pieces to clip on the ends up here to give you a variety of ways to hang your figures and stuff. And I'm going to clip on my one Gundam here and show you this. So look at that. That could look so cool. Getting a couple stands for your Gundam and having them fly in at different angles. It just looks awesome. And look at the height you can get. Isn't that incredible? I mean, look at that height. Wow. So getting 2 of these black stands for, you know, roughly $13.99, 14 bucks for your Gundam is way worth it compared to spending $35 for one direct from the manufacturer. So, and Bandai did say they were sending me one, but it's not going to show up for 7 weeks. So I will get a direct from Bandai stand, because I did contact them and they said they would send me one for review. So I was like very happy because I said I wanted to do a review on stands. But then when it shipped, it said it's not going to be here for another like 7 or 8 weeks. So I didn't want to wait that long. So if I do get that one in the mail and it does show up, we'll compare the manufacturer stand to this generic one and see which one is the better bang for the buck. So it's really nice of Bandai to send me a stand, I think. I think that's really, really cool of them. And I can't wait to get it and compare it with these things. So, yeah. Oh, I've knocked him off his peg, I think. Yeah, I think I've knocked him off his peg now. Look at that with the smaller stand. You can really, like, bend his legs back and have him just flying into battle. So there is some use for that shorter stand that we were talking about with these Gundam figures. I think you can really get, you know, some good use for low flying action there. So, you know, and since they're cheap, I mean, those were really cheap. It's not that bad to have that, yeah. So there's some options you could do with this, you know? Pretty cool. So there we go, guys. I know this has been a long video, but taking a look at various stands that you can buy on the market. The DC stand, which is a very nice and very versatile stand. I highly recommend it. We'll have to see how much these cost on their own. They could be a very cost-effective way to hold a lot of Marvel, DC, and Star Wars action figures. I'll put a link in the description below once I find that price. We've got the generic doll stand, which averages out to about $1 a stand. And again, it works great for 12-inch. I really love it for these 12-inch. Clipping it around the leg worked really well. I'm floored with how well they work with Mego. I think all my Mego and all my 12-inch are going to go in these stands right now, and I'm going to order another batch just to make sure I cover all the figures that I want to put on stands, because these are not going to fall over. They're going to work really well, and they're a very inexpensive way to hold this type of figures. And then we got these inexpensive stands. Now, I did figure out just now that if you bend it this way and bend it this way, so it's at the maximum that these can bend, they won't, you know, the weight won't matter anymore. So she can hover using these cheap stands about an inch or so off the ground, and it works. So there could be some value to these really, really cheap stands that I got. Again, these were roughly $1 a stand. The problem with them is we realized these joints, oh, pardon me, sorry. The problem with this is that we realized that these joints with the screws, they're just not strong enough to hold a heavy figure like, say, a McFarlane or a Gundam or something like these. It really can only be used for smaller figures. You know, this might work well for 3.75-inch figures. I didn't even think about trying to get one of those on here. Oh, yeah. So these don't weigh enough to push it down. So yeah, let's say this Mon Calamari was jumping. I've got 2 joints here before he's flying through the air, and it seems to work just fine. So, so for anything lightweight, this stand will work good. But for some of these heavy 6-inch or 10-inch figures, you're not going to want to use with this stand unless you do this arc thing and hold it at its maximum joints. But it's still, I mean, is it worth paying $1? Yeah, they're not bad for $1, you know? I mean, come on. But for bigger figures, you're going to want to spend a little bit more. Which takes me to the Marvel one, or the Hasbro Pulse one. And the Hasbro Pulse stand is going to give you the most strength for your money. This thing is strong. There's no doubt that this is not going to break. It's not going to go anywhere. I mean, it can break. If you really force it, you're going to break this. But I'm saying in normal wear and tear, normal use, where you're being careful and you're setting things up like normally, this is a really good stand. And I believe you get 3 of them, right? Is it 3 for the $14.99 off of Hasbro Pulse. So, you know, not too bad bang for your buck there. You know, I think for most of your uses, you're going to want either the Hasbro Pulse or the DC one, and you're going to get a lot of good use out of those two stands. And then if you're going with Gundam, there's no doubt we've figured out that these two are pretty good. This stand works for low aerial combat situations, and it's pretty cool. And then we've got the big black stand where we got two of them for $13.99, which really is strong, versatile, and like strong. I mean, this thing has a good solid base. There's 9 points where you can put the peg holes for the armature. The armature has added support in this little piece here that, you know, supports it in between the two arms. So you've got that strength. I mean, look at it. I banged it. It's rocking all over the place, and the Gundam's not falling. It's not budging. So it's really cool. This one's falling down while we're talking. Why are you falling down? You're not clipped in, are you? Anyway. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with most of these stands. Do I have to rate them, I guess? I don't know. Let's say I liked, okay, the big black one for the Gundam, that's top notch. Number one for Gundam. I'd say go with that over these. Even though these are really, really cheap, really inexpensive, they do have some use and some value. So if you see a little bit of value in this thing, it's worth paying. I think they were about $2 each, right? I got 5 of them for $10, so they were about $2 each. But this stand by far is the best Gundam stand, hands down. I mean, look at that thing. It looks awesome. It really holds the figure well. And there's a lot of options that come with it. The DC stand really holds up for a lot of these figures. I'm really impressed with how well designed that is. The Hasbro stand is the strongest one. I think I like the DC stand the best for simply holding onto a figure at a good angle and keeping it in the position you put it in. I like it a little better than the Hasbro stand only because there's a lot of bulk here. There's a lot of extra on this Hasbro stand, but it does have more versatility in being that you can lower and raise the clip, and you've got this extra arm that you can add or take away, and give yourself a little bit more versatility in doing some dynamic poses and various things with your characters, or hanging them outside of your shelves, like off a shelf and hanging out. So there's some good uses for this, but it is a little more expensive. And then we got the most out of our doll stand. This surprised us, right around $1 each, or even less than $1 each, because I think we got 12 of them in the pack. And it's proven to be pretty useful for a number of different things. I think we even said it worked well for our Gundam, didn't it? At least that one Gundam I had, it worked pretty good on. And I mean, it works well for... Where's our Black Series guy? I mean, she even can clip on here and be up in the air, you know? So, if you just want them high up and not really, you know, flying in a dynamic pose, it still works for them too. So you can get a lot of, surprisingly, for this simple stand, you seem to be able to get a lot of use out of it. And I'm especially happy with these 12-inch and Mego characters. Seems to be the best stand for those kind of guys. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, I hope this wasn't too like convoluted and weird. I hope this was useful for you. And like I said, I'm going to put all the links to all these stands down in the description below. Thanks a lot for watching my little chat about stands. I hope that this information was presented in a way that could actually be useful for you, and it wasn't just me rambling on about stands. And maybe this helps you make a decision in buying some stands for your figures, you know. I think if I'm going to purchase more, I'm going to purchase more of the black stand for my Gundam if I want any that are flying high like this. I would purchase more of these to use for my 12-inch and my Mego. Definitely going to do that. And if I can buy the DC stands, if we do find that link and I can buy them, and they're not, like, if they're also like $5, $6, $8 each, if they work out like 2 for $15 or 3 for $15, I think I'm going to buy myself a couple more of these DC stands to have around for other characters because they work out pretty well. And the capes went over the stand very well, like with that Superman. The Hasbro Pulse one, I think so far I'm happy with the 3. If I end up using the 3 that I have and feel a need for more, I could buy more. I wouldn't be put out. 3 for $15 is not bad at all for what you get. But the bulk is still getting me. There's a lot of stand there, a lot of retail space taken up by the stand for your shelves. So that could be my only issue with this one. And then the El Cheapo ones, these little cheapo stands, I don't think I'm going to buy any more of them. They really are a cheap stand. And I think I'm going to be happy with the number I have. I almost don't want to recommend them to anybody because of just the way the joints work, and they don't really hold their shape when you're holding on to a heavier figure. I think you're better off buying a DC stand or maybe even the Hasbro one just to have that solidarity of it's going to stay where I put it. I'm afraid, I just fear that this stand isn't going to stay where you put it. So I think this is my only one, the only one I would not recommend is this cheap stand. So out of the bunch, the rest have their value, have their uses. They may not be useful for everybody in every category, but they have their uses somewhere where this little stand, you might not want to use it for any more than a 3.75-inch figure, and I don't think I'm going to even use up the 8 that I have on my 3.75-inch collection. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. All right, guys, thanks a lot for watching. I appreciate it, and I hope you got something out of this. My name's John. This is the Super Awesome Geek Show. You've been watching a look at stands. And, okay, I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.